Welcome back, Venus Warriors. Thank you so much for being here. It is our Friday episodes, and as you know, on Fridays, I always have women that I feel are Venus Warriors inside. They've gone through some struggle, some hardship, or maybe they've just had enough, and where they finally went out and did what they wanted to do with their lives. And so I have them come on here, not to share just their business, but I want them to share their stories. And as you have heard these women's stories and what they have gone through, because then you see, wow, someone else actually is going through what I'm going through right now. And they finally just said, enough's enough. And they went out and they did what they wanted. So this is all the proof and all the little kick in the butt that I can give you because I'm not with you in person. So today I have a really, really fun and special guest because she's got a lot of stuff coming up in the works, which I'm very excited about. And so today, Lindsay, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Can you please tell our listeners, what is it exactly your business is and how you're helping people right now?
Okay, so I am the CEO of Growthvine. Now, Growthvine, we do two things. We have a marketing agency over here, and then we also have the coaching consultancy side over on the other side of the business. And pretty much the people that we help are online educators and online creators, so people who are doing consultancy training, etc. And the way that we do that is through different courses, different structures. We've actually got a summit coming up, which is the big thing, which is a whole free event that is designed to help people who are in those earlier stages, years 0 to 4, with building their business and actually making it profitable. Because part of that struggle is that people come into business having had struggles of their own. They often come in and see all this marketing hype and all of the buzzwords that are usually a load of rubbish, most of them. There's a lot of myths in our industry. And then they don't make profit, which is obviously what they need. So, that's what we're helping people do at the moment. Hopefully that kind of resonates with the audience because, building a business is the hard part. For me, I came into this industry 15 years ago and I didn't know what I was doing. I remember asking my mum and saying, so what do I need to know about running a business? And she showed me this huge, double entry, old fashioned way of doing accounting. And I kind of went a bit grey in the face and was a bit scared and went, I'm not sure I can do this. And, the reason why I came into business was because exactly like you said in your intro, I'd been through so much stuff that I just thought enough is enough. I am reclaiming my life back. Because when I had come into business, I had originally, I used to work in film and TV. And what happened was I fell pregnant with my daughter, very unplanned. I was told that I was there for a teenage pregnancy, even though I was at that point 20 years old. And pretty much my employers, who used to send me all around the world to sell films, just said, we don't know who you are, and just denied employing me. So I had been through a hell of a journey at that point because I had a 4-year court case that resulted in the stress of it, resulted in me actually ending up paralyzed all down my right arm. And I thought, okay, I was called a whistleblower in my industry. I was called all these names. And ultimately, I did an awful lot for females in that industry because the court case was a landmark test case. I won. That was the good news. I won eventually because I'm one of those people that believes that if you do something wrong, that actually you should be, good should always prevail. I still kind of believe in fairy tales to that extent. So I went through that and I retrained to teach because I thought if I can't work in my industry, I can at least teach others about the importance of it. So that's what I went off to do. And after I'd done all my teaching qualifications, I still had a business ongoing. I was doing a bit of small business at the time, nothing major, because I had had my daughter in tow and she was having to come to everything that I was doing in the physical world with a physical business. So I'd retrained to teach. I was still being a full-time mum. I was still being a full-time student while I was doing that. And I was technically full-time working. And it was stressful. And I went through this position when I went into teaching, that then all of a sudden, I thought I was in a stable job. My boss turned around to me again. It was another guy. And he basically had promised me my job was safe. It's when over here in the UK, there was huge educational reform shakeups. And he promised me my job was safe. And in teaching, there's a really small window of opportunity where you can apply for a job and you can do things. And ultimately, what happened was it turned out my job wasn't safe. And I had been put in a horrible position all over again where, I have my daughter, because of the life choices we made, she's at a private school, and my life is committed for another 8 years now to private school fees. And, I had no way to pay my bills. It was ridiculous. And I sat at that moment. It was a Friday night. It was 5 o'clock, and I'd been through absolute hell, because obviously all of those failures of everything had come rushing back to me. And I sat there in tears, and they were not pretty tears. It was proper ugly crying. And I was like, again, another guy, for want of me trying, another guy has come in and ruined my life from an employment perspective. Again, they're making me feel all these things. And I went through all of those horrible questions that you ask yourself of what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Mm-hmm. All of the kind of imposter feeling questions. And I kind of got to the end, and when you all cried out and you just go, no, enough is enough. And since that point, I've become a huge believer in self-talk, and I self-talk to myself all the time, which probably sounds a little weird, but I believe in listening to that little voice, because that day, that little voice in me kind of came out, and it was a really honest, out loud conversation with myself, which probably sounds really stupid. Mm-mm. But just talking to myself about, it's okay. We've been through worse, quite literally. I ended up paralyzed shortly after this conversation again. So, worse was yet to come. But, at that point, I'd been through worse. And I just said, look, I know how to do business. I know how to do it. I may not be perfect at it. I may not make a lot of money at it right now, but I get what I have to do. Why not? Yes, I can go back and I'll find another teaching job to pay the bills while I build something up. Why not put all my energy and all my actual passion into building something for me, and then get rid of, any side gigs, which is ultimately what I kind of reframe teaching to be in my mind, mm-hmm. so that you can build a business. You can actually not have to rely on somebody else. And ultimately, for me, being very feminist about it, it became a case of not having to rely on another man to have a say in my life. Because by that point, I'd been a single mum. I had then obviously, I got remarried, but I'd been a single mum for many years. Yeah. I'd been through the point of, like I say, 2 horrific, very badly treated employments, and I just had enough. So that was kind of that crystal moment when all of a sudden I said, I'm going to do this. And that's how I started building my business. So, I worked at, every time I got a break during the working day, I would build something, I'd be doing things. And about 7 or 8 weeks after that, I'd walk straight into another job, because, my skills were good. But ultimately, I still wanted to commit to what I'd said to myself that day. And I ended up paralyzed again through a car accident of all things. I seem to have had really bad luck in those years. And I think it was, looking back, I don't kind of say it's bad luck normally. I think it was that I was I really believe in flashing signs in your life, and that if you don't listen to your gut and start to take action the way you're supposed to, these signs are going to get louder and bigger, mm-hmm. until ultimately you are literally put in a situation where you have no choice but to create change. Yep. And that's what I feel I was going through in those years. Yep. And for me, that change was, I ended up paralyzed. The new employment obviously didn't want to take responsibility, in the sense that, going to have to pay while I'm off sick. And they put me in a really awkward position and said to me, we either get you out on ill health because we can't afford to pay for you to be off sick, because ultimately we were looking at potentially a year or more of me being paralyzed and struggling to get back, or you find a way to get yourself back within 6 weeks. And I, being the kind of person I am, said, I'll try. Thinking, my resolve kind of weakened a little bit. I went back to being my people pleaser self. Went, I'll try. And I rushed through recovery, really rushing through, to the point where nobody believed me at the time. And I was having acupuncture up and down my head, on my neck and everything. But I was having it daily, to the point where every morning when I got up, I couldn't see out of my eyes for the first hour or so, because I was rushing so hard to get back to work. Mm-hmm. And it was only when I kind of sat there and went, I can't keep this up. I'm going to have to come up with a third option. And I said to the people at the time, there is a third option. The third option is, you can pay me less than it would cost to have me off sick for a year. And we can do that, and you can do it tax-free. Because by this point, I had kind of lost any inhibitions to stay quiet. I thought, right, let's go with the biggest, wildest offer I can imagine, because, I've not got much to leverage. I might as well just leverage with the biggest thing I can. So I said, look, you can pay me half my salary, you can pay it tax-free, and you can ultimately let me out of this situation. You can get on with what you need to do. I can get on with me, because there's no way I can physically get back for you in the time frame you want. Yeah. And they took me up on that. And as soon as they said that, I came and sat in this exact same room I'm in now, in a little wooden chair, and I started typing. And my arm was sling like this, and I was typing away, building one of my very big businesses, which over the course of about 4.5 years, I built from 0 orders to about 800,000 individual orders per year, not including my recurring customers. And over that period, I then started doing coaching, mentoring, and all of the other aspects, because I started off with an e-commerce business. And I built that up, and it was huge, and it was fantastic. And I got to a point, and again, people say to me about business, well, how do you know when you've had enough? Mm-hmm. And for me, I didn't know that. Because I didn't know what I was doing in those early days, I hadn't started it with an exit strategy, which is what I recommend to all of my clients nowadays. So start with an exit plan. I just started with a case of, I need some money. I need to be in charge of my life. I'm not prepared to put another man in charge of it ever again. What do? I do the thing I can do best. I can talk to people. I can type. Yeah, we'll give it a go. And when I got to the 4.5 year mark, it got to the point where I was having, and I now know it's called vertigo. And I was having vertigo because I was looking at my car after having gone for walking meetings and saying to the people that were with me, why is my car moving? Just put your hand out, the car's going to roll back. And clearly it never was. It'd been parked there for hours. But things like that started happening more and more. And I realized that I'd made myself incredibly, incredibly sick, because I was working so hard, and I'd built a business where I was so overwhelmed, mm-hmm. because I didn't know how to stop it, mm-hmm. that I didn't know what to do next. So that was a really kind of big eye opener. It was kind of like the next challenge on, because people always think starting a business is a challenge in itself and getting it to start making money. The big challenge that I found, and it was probably the challenge that broke me the most, was how do I, when I get to the point of saying, stop the train, I want to get off, how do I actually do that? Mm-hmm. For me, the business had grown to the point where I was out of alignment. I wasn't in love with it. We sold all sorts of products, including fancy dress. And I remember going to a networking meeting and somebody saying, oh, he's a lady in the fancy dress. And, imposter syndrome coming back in. I do a lot of mindset work, but, every now and again, these things creep in. It's never, you've done it once and it's done.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, no, I don't want to be known as that lady. I don't want this. I had a 3,000 square foot warehouse. I had city centre retail stores. It was a huge operation. We were running 24 hours a day. And I would be up 3 or 4 times a night to check the security cameras to make sure that the staff, I could say something to them next day as they came off night shift. So they knew I was always watching to try and reduce any chance of theft or anything like that. And I got to this point where, like I say, I was so broken that ultimately we did have a theft, and it was always coming. It was just trying to find it when it was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I think when you grow big, people do see that you have success and they get jealous, and some people do want to cash in on that. And for me, what happened, which is the painful part, was I had my right hand woman, who I literally trained to be my right hand in the event I got paralyzed again. Ultimately, I ended up with 300,000 of theft and damage. So 300,000 pounds, which is about $360,000 roughly. Yep. And I got put in a position where I either closed up shop or I rebuilt. And I kind of sat there at this point thinking, I'm sick every day. I'm not seeing my daughter. I went through all of the reasons why I wanted to get off the train, and kind of went, I need to do this. I'm going to have to close this one to build something better that works for me. Yep. And when you get to that point, the biggest challenge that anybody who's listening, if you're going through this, I would say the biggest challenge is making that decision to do it yourself. I made the decision that I was going to close the business before I was put in the position, because I didn't want to I had nothing left to give. Yep. I would put myself in that position where I made that decision to close and start something else. And a lot of people hated me for it. I'll be really honest, a lot of people hated me for it. The reason being that I had chosen to take that action and I hadn't allowed somebody else to do it for me. And people get very angry when you change things and they haven't got a say in it, or they haven't got control of it. My employees, my staff, my team were lovely. It was actually outside people who had nothing to do with the business, but they felt connected in some way. They were the ones that had the biggest problem. And what happened was, for me, that huge challenge became into a huge mindset issue. And once that mindset kicks in, and once those doubts kick in, it can have massive effects. And for me, I went through about 2.5 years of depression, heavy depression, which I just couldn't seem to get over. And the only thing that could keep me sane, and it was the exact same as when I was paralyzed the first time around, the only thing that kept me sane was my business. Because I'd gone from one, I'd had that conversation with myself with a couple of bottles of wine, but I'd had the conversation and decided what I wanted to do next. What was my next move?
Yep.
And that was the thing that kept me sane throughout all of that horrible, challenging period of life, was already having a business and saying, I know what to do. I know what I need to do. And I'm not afraid to kind of get out there and say it and do it. It wasn't the skills or lack of, it was the fact that I'd had a mindset wobble. And because I hadn't picked it up quick enough to do that mindset correction, and it kind of just got deeper and deeper and deeper till it made me sick. And all my hair fell out. I could only drink water every so often, because everything else I would just be violently sick with. And the illness made me housebound because I was so poorly. And it was just part of the illness and part of actually just letting go of the fact that for so long I'd been in a business, a big, heavy weighted business, because it did feel like a tombstone around my neck. And actually going through that and saying, it's okay, that stress is going. And, anybody who's been in a stressful environment that's listening will know, as soon as you take the stress away, you get sick, because your body has to kind of realign without all of the stress hormones. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge thing. And that was a huge challenge for me. So I've been through lots of different challenges, both with life and with business and how it's impacted. But the one message I want everyone to know is focus. If you're feeling like that, focus on where you can with your business and what skills you have. Because honestly, my business was the thing that absolutely saved me, saved my mindset, saved, because of where I was at and the dark place I potentially was headed towards. I've got no qualms in saying that my business definitely saved my life at least once in my business journey, because there were times when I got to really dark places, and the only thing that I could trust was the fact that I had a business. I knew how that business worked, and I knew how to make it make money. I might not have known anything else that was going on around me and have control over it, but the one thing I could control was the business. So hopefully that kind of helps everyone that's listening understand some of the challenges that I've been through. And if I can pull through it and I can continue building and, get into multi-six figures, and, like now, one of my agencies at the other side of Growthfinder, the marketing side, we white label for some of the biggest names in the industry. So for anybody who doesn't know what white labeling is, it just means that we sign an agreement that says, we're doing the work, but we're not going to tell anybody that we're doing the work for you. We're going to say it's all yours, really. So that's basically what white label is. And, we do that for some of the biggest names in the actual industry. And if I can do that and pull the stopcord on a train and do all of those things, absolutely anybody else out there can.
And the one thing that I want to ask, or maybe have you stress, is that when you're in it, it's not easy, right? Even though you say that, it saved your life, but it wasn't easy, right?
Oh God, no, absolutely not. There were times when I was in it that I would lose 2 hours, which needed to be very productive in. And I'd lose 2 hours because I'd stare at the wall and kind of go off into a daydream, which was my coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. It's not an easy thing to go through. It feels like you're in hell. It's probably the only way to explain it. And anybody who's had any form of chronic illness, or anybody who's had any form of, self-doubt, or any form of mental health, it is horrendous. And as soon as you start to kind of feel it lift, and I said this to somebody just the other day, you live in this kind of perpetual fear of that fog creeping back in. And ultimately, the thing for me that has always helped clear my mind has actually been just focusing on the business, focusing on what I can control. Because by focusing on what I can control, the whole foggy feeling, the whole, what happens if tomorrow I get up and it's all right back to square one, tends to keep it at bay. And people say to me, you're a workaholic, and I go, actually, for me, it's therapy. It's really cathartic. but it isn't something that is, when you're in that journey, it isn't something that is easy. And that's why for me, sharing these stories is so critical, because the more people share their challenges and their vulnerabilities and what they've experienced, and the more people, like the listeners today can hear, then ultimately the more you can, it's not just you on your own. It's never somebody going through this on your own. There are people going out there and who are experiencing everything just the same way you are. They just maybe aren't broadcasting it or saying about it right now, because obviously they're in that dark place. But I think as soon as anybody gets to that place where they've got the strength to talk about it, you should, because the more we can help people. And yes, it is hard. It is so hard. Sometimes you don't want to get out of bed. Sometimes you kind of get up and you manage half an hour and you want to go back to bed. Just remember to take baby steps. And even if that baby step is doing something like that one thing that you can be consistent with in your business, even if it's just every day I'm going to try and write an email, and that is it. Even if that email just says, hi, cute cat picture or dog picture, even if it just says that, at least you're doing something and moving forwards. That's the big message that I really kind of think needs to be stressed, is you might be in hell, but ultimately, from my experience, the only person who can get you out of that situation is you. I went through this, and I thought that, with the first one, I thought that the lawyers were going to help. I thought that the barristers would. I thought when I got paralyzed, that all of the specialists, the healthcare teams, I thought they were going to help. And, when I went through the last one, I thought my family were going to be able to help. And it's not that they weren't, but nobody could understand that pain. And when you have something going wrong with your business, or when you have a challenge that's impacting on what you're able to do, and ultimately, and I'll talk about it because people don't often talk about it. When you've got that challenge that's going on in your private life that's affecting your income and your actual money at bank, people then, that kind of creates that spiral that means you just keep going down and down, because ultimately everything's going to pot. And the more that you can be aware that A, that's normal, everybody has that spiral happen, but B, understand that not everybody's going to be able to fix it. Nobody's going to be able to come in with a magic kind of white horse and fix that for you. It's got to be you doing it. And when you feel like crap and you're kind of sitting there thinking, how do I get out of this situation? You've just got to remember that you've got to put one foot in front of the other, no matter whether that one foot is just, I wrote an email today, or I wrote hi and put a cat meme on, or something like that. Even if that is your one step in front of the other, it's learning to do that. And I think for me, that's why the business, I can quite happily say it, it did feel like it saved my life in that respect, because I knew how to do business. I didn't know how to cope with what was going on around me elsewhere. I didn't know how to troubleshoot that because I was so sick. But when I kind of looked at it and looked at what wasn't causing me pain, well, business can't cause me pain because it's just tasks. And I can do one thing after the other, and I can focus on those tiny, just one step at a time little things that are just tasks that you do every day. And that's how I think that the business really helped, because when you're focusing on that one task every day and it doesn't hurt you, it doesn't have anything to do with anything, and actually it has the potential to make you money, which when you're in that cycle of just continually spiraling down, when you get into that position, that's when you kind of go, okay, I've got this. And then, if you suddenly go from that, and I remember getting my first sale in when I was going back through this whole dark time after I kind of pulled the ripcord on the other business. I remember getting my first sale in, and I'd been in a really dark place. I'd been panicking about school fees. I'd been panicking, thinking, God, what's going to happen if I can't pay them? Because I don't want to be the person responsible for breaking my daughter's heart and having to move her schools because I screwed up and because I did something that I wanted because I couldn't cope anymore. And that was a huge stress for me. And it was like a big kind of loop in my head that wouldn't go away. And as soon as I brought my first kind of bit of income back into the business, it kind of just eased off just a tiny bit. And then every time I did that, it slowly eased things off more and more. And I think when you're in a challenging place, if it's health-wise, obviously there's lots of things triggering it, but if it is mental health, quite often it's looking at all those little factors that have kind of built in and looking at, well, why is that triggering me? And quite often for so many of the entrepreneurs that I know and I talk to, one of the big things is actually just being external factors, and it being external factors such as finances, and how you can at least start to take those steps one by one just to kind of move yourself out of that situation. Even if it's hard, you've just got to remember you're in charge of your own destiny. You're the one who is in control. Even when you feel like you're not, you're still in control, and you are the one who can take those steps, and you can take them. Absolutely, you can take them. Don't doubt yourself that you can't.
Absolutely. And the thing that you said is that, yes, it is hard, like we talked about. It's not easy, but I always ask the question of, is it better to struggle in this moment and get through this to be at point B than to stay always in the muck at point A?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. It's a really good question. I would never change any of the experiences I have had, even though somebody once said to me, your life sounds like a soap opera meets a car crash. Okay. I live life at 1,000 miles an hour, and I'm fine with that. I love the fact that that's okay. But I know for others it might be daunting, and usually those people that say it are those who are not into any form of business. They usually tend to be people who are employees who are okay kind of sticking in point A. Whereas I think as soon as you are awake to entrepreneurship, your mind kind of switches into a different gear, and you need to get to point B, but the journey from point A to point B is not a straight line. It kind of goes all like that and loop-de-loop. And I would never change a single moment of my journey. I'd maybe go back and send myself little love notes and say, you got this, kid, it's okay. But I wouldn't change a single thing, because that's how we become who we are. And I firmly believe, my absolute faith is that we have to go through what we've gone through in order to become the person that we're meant to be as part of this journey that we're on in life. And we might not have any control over that journey. We might not have any control over where we think that's going to end up. Like I say, those big flashing signs come up and can kind of reroute you at any time. But you have to go through that experience in order to become who you are. And, don't regret anything that's happened. Don't, wish that it wasn't happening, and if I ignore it, it's going to go away. Ignoring it isn't going to fix anything. Okay, it really isn't. I've got a friend at the moment who is, absolutely buried under with debts, and I kind of sat and had this whole conversation with her just the other week, and she's burying her head in the sand, and I said to her, but if you keep doing this, it's going to keep getting worse, and you're going to keep subjecting yourself to more and more pain. The sooner you start to think about the fact that, yes, point A to point B, that bit in the middle is the scary bit, but that bit in the middle is also living. We've got to live, and we've got to aim to live a life where we are not in fear. I mean, there's a certain point of fear that we want in life to kind of push us out of our comfort zone to do more and to be better. But you want to not live in fear. And if point A is somewhere that's painful, or it's somewhere that is maybe quite uncomfortable for you, then yeah, it's going to feel that way. And you might not want to kind of say, come over here and come to point B, because actually point B, while it looks pretty, you may have to walk over a whole ring of fire to get there. But it's definitely worth doing. It's definitely worth taking that leap and making those kind of, like I said, one foot in front of the other, because it's going to be, when you get there, a lot less painful than where you're at the moment in point A. And people are always afraid of the journey. And again, it's something I'd love to stress here to everyone. Don't be afraid of that journey, because once you start to get away from that big scary thing in point A, it's a bit like if you ever see anybody burn the ground after a fire, when we had a campfire or something, the ground is all black and dark, and it's kind of charred around near where that kind of epicenter is. And the further and further you walk away, the brighter the grass gets again, till it's nice and bright green. So the more you keep doing that one step in front of the other, the more you're slowly heading towards that green grass. And again, it does get better with every step. You've just got to start with taking an action. And that's the ultimate advice I could give to anybody.
Yeah, that was perfect. I love all of that. And the other thing that you said, which I really want to stress, because I actually thought about this morning, was the that, oh, you look so successful, and it must have been so easy and so fast. And you said it with like, oh yeah, they don't tell you all the crap that happened before, right? And I love that, because I always want to say that they're like, oh, you're an overnight success, and it's like, yes, I'm a 20-year overnight success.
Yeah, people tend to think that it's kind of that swan on the lake scenario. They see that beautiful swan. They don't see all of the kind of pedaling like hell to make it move forwards and to keep going. And it's so easy. And I think, you see these overnight successes because all of a sudden, the press has picked it up and they've picked up all of this information. And once something goes in the press and you get that virality, then yeah, suddenly you're everywhere and you are that sensation. The thing is, it takes time, and it's like you say, 20-year overnight success. That's what you become ultimately. And for me, people saw success and thought it had come easy. And actually, one of the things that triggered that whole, pull the ripcord on the business for me was listening back to some evidence that the police and the cybercrime units had presented after I had the theft, which was some audio recordings that that the lady had done who did all the damage and sent to her boyfriend in another country because he was over in the Navy. So she had sent these audio recordings and the police had recovered them, and they'd obviously seen that I was very upset. Said, you're going to want to listen to these. And pretty much what the lady said, which has stuck with me for so many reasons over these last few years, basically what she was saying was, I feel guilty for doing this because she's my friend. Bear in mind, this lady used to come for dinner with us, and I'd take her out for dinner 2 days before she did this, which with me and my daughter. But she said, she's my friend. I do like her, but ultimately she can afford to lose this because she's got the nice house, she's got the nice car, she's got the daughter in the nice education. Because all she saw ultimately with those blinkers on was she saw that success. She didn't see me sitting in this room on that rickety, wooden chair, which is actually really comfy, by the way. Just got to sit like this. I'm still sitting on it now, look. Because it is my chair. And she didn't see any of that. She didn't see me sitting at 2 a.m. banging my head off the table with frustration because my arm hurt, my hand hurt, my shoulders hurt. And here I am still building a business thinking, I'm scared. I've got no idea if this is going to work, but it has to. She didn't see any of that. She just saw the external, the end result. And because of that end result, she thought that it was okay and didn't see any of those potential consequences. And this is the thing, is people will only see what they want to see in you, no matter whether it is, where you're at now. Maybe you're at point A and they still want to always see you at point A, even if you've achieved point B. They will only ever see you the way they want to. So just learn to ignore other people. And this is something that's took me a long time to get my head around. And there was a book I read by Jay Baer called Hug Your Haters. And to me, that book is it was more life-changing than that book that everyone raves on about, The Art of Not Giving a. Okay. To me, Hug Your Haters was way better because it taught me just to switch off and ignore people, and actually ignore whether they thought I was being successful, ignore whether they thought maybe I wasn't, because actually the only person whose opinion counts is me. And now that I've been on a journey I've been on, I have those success metrics in my head of what actual success looks like for me, not the external factors. They're things I used to aim to please. Like I said earlier, I'm a recovering people pleaser. I used to think that I had to kind of, create jobs, because where I am, the big focus here is on creating jobs in the job market. I had to create a certain turnover. I had to have and look a certain way and be doing certain tasks within my business. And as soon as I actually realized that was other people's success metrics, because that's what they got paid for and where they made their money. As soon as I realized that and stripped back all of that culture, because where I am, it's very cultural for that. As soon as I stripped that back and I started to look at, what does success mean to me? Then I realized actually success means that I can sleep in and have a leisurely shower and get up at 10 a.m. and do a bit of work, and then, get lost at 4 o'clock if I want to. To me, that is success, because as long as I can have the lifestyle I want and pay my bills, I'm happy. And happiness is an inside job, and people often kind of weight that success on those external factors. And I say, other people are already doing that for you. So what you don't need to do it for yourself. Weight your success on what you want it to be and what outcomes you want, because everybody's going to look at what you're doing and have an opinion. Be it that you're an overnight success, be it that you can afford to take losses, be it that they just don't like you because you're everywhere and, oh, I could do it better. People will always have those opinions. Don't let those opinions get inside your head. And I know that is hard. I really know it is. I have a big sign in my room over there that says, tell a negative committee inside your head to sit down and shut up. Yep. And every day when I put my makeup on, and I always put my makeup on for business because I get to see that sign, I kind of hammer it home to myself every day. Just tell them to shut up, focus on you, because once you focus on you, you're okay. It's when you start letting everybody else's opinions come in that the problem starts.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yep. And I had the Marian, she's in our mentoring group as well. She had the best comment where she's like, the itty bitty shitty committee. And I said, oh my God, that's perfect.
I like that one. The one I heard the other day from somebody, which made me laugh, was calling them the leg humpers. Those who kind of come and want to hump your leg because you're successful all of a sudden and then disappear straight after. I had that when I pulled the ripcord on the business. All of these people that I thought were as friends just disappeared. I went, I get now what they were for. They just wanted to kind of ride the Lindsay train a little bit. And I love that phrase.
Isn't it awesome? Yeah, I've been using it a lot. But yeah, you're absolutely right, because everyone judges. It is a natural human sense to judge. Positive or negative doesn't matter, but it is automatic. So if everyone is going to judge you anyways, who cares? Do it anyway. Yeah. That's my motto. So, I love your story. I think it's incredible. It's powerful, because women now understand that, it may look great on the outside, but it's because you're working your butt off in behind the scenes, right? And then and struggles happen, but the journey is enjoy the journey, just like you said, because that's the moment you have is the moment right now. The moment we're living in right now is what we have. The past is gone, future's not here, and it's not guaranteed, right? And so
absolutely.
I love your journey. I think it's incredible. And your summit, which is, I'm also very excited because I've seen it within our group. I'm very excited for you, and it's a big endeavor, I know. But would you like to share a little bit about that so people know what to expect or what to see?
Yeah, certainly. So the summit is called Profitable Personal Brand Summit. Or if you've seen an email from me, word profitable isn't in that title because the bro marketers ruined it with all of their talk about make lots of fake money. The summit itself is pretty much blowing the lid on every kind of myth and everything you've been told in all the marketing about building your business. So it's aimed at people who are building a personal brand, particularly anybody who is doing any form of online education or any form of online creation. But a lot of the principles, if you are outside of that niche, still apply. And what we're working on is how to help people get out of that entrepreneurial poverty, because creating your business is one thing, making money and being profitable is another thing. And if you listen to half of the bull that's out there, you will end up just snowed under and believing all these fake things. Someone said to me the other day, they'd heard somebody, an influencer, a very big influencer, say that if you're doing a 7-figure launch, it's for promotion and you should spend 7 figures. Or there's no point you doing Facebook ads, which is another one I heard the other day. No point you doing Facebook ads. And again, this is in a huge influencer launch. Unless you have over 5,000 people on your list. If you don't, you need to run ads before you do my affiliate launch to make your list get bigger and all of this rubbish. So the summit is here to get rid of all that. And it's structured, basically it's going out from May 13th to May 18th. If you're catching this and we're already in the summit, don't worry, you can still come and sign up. It's a free summit, okay? So you would come over to our URL, which is profitablepersonalbrandsummit.com, and you can claim your free pass and you can get access to our speaker sessions. Now we've got 39 world-class experts in their field who are talking to you about every single aspect of building your business. And I'll be honest, obviously I'm slightly biased, but I think this is great in the fact that I sat with these guys and did hour-long interviews with each and every one with a list of the questions that they really wanted to know. Mm-hmm. So I asked those things. Those questions when you watch people's free webinars, or you watch you maybe join their courses and pay $4,000 to get in, mm-hmm. and then you still kind of come away going, but you didn't answer my question. Yep. I asked those questions. Nice. So it's really exciting. So it's a free summit. you can just come sign up at profitablepersonalbrandsummit.com and you can claim your free ticket. The sessions go live. There's 6 or 7 sessions a day. Each day is themed. It's a bit like a giant course in that respect. It's following a theme each day, and the speaker sessions are live for 24 hours. So you can come and catch each day, watch them at any point over the 24 hours. There's no set time schedule for each one. And after that, if you need more access, we do have like a premium pass so you can keep continual access. And it's really good because we've got some very, very big software partners who are doing things. Actually, we totted the value up of the summit based on everyone's hourly charge and all the other stuff. And it came to just over £15,000 that the summit was worth. And obviously we're just giving it away. And the reason we're giving it away is because I believe so passionately that there are people who have experiences just like I did, who want to build a business and who are sitting there stumped going, how do I do this? Haven't maybe got 2 or 3K to invest. I haven't got time to try every little strategy on YouTube, which potentially may not make sense because nobody ever gives all the good stuff away on YouTube. You know, how do I do it? Well, that's what the summit's for. It's about getting you out of that entrepreneurial poverty and getting you making actual money, but without the fluff and without the BS. That's the big thing. No BS included.
Oh, that's incredible. And I'm excited because I already signed up like 2 weeks ago. So oh, this is incredible. And for everyone listening, I'm going to put all of this information in the show notes so we can click right on it and you can get in there, no problem. And it is free. And I highly, highly recommend it because I've actually stalked her page and it's really good. So, thank you so much, Lindsay. I really, really appreciate you taking the time because it is time out of your day, but I know that you're so passionate about this because it is your authentic self and you want to share this message with the world. So thank you so much.
You are absolutely more than welcome. And I hope that our conversation, even if it's only helped one person today, then that is my mission accomplished. So you're more than welcome.
Thank you.